Hey everyone, Alchemist Lion here, and today we're gonna punch our way through Sinkhole Amp. Let's begin. So we covered home base, and we took a look at this northwest cliff amp. Now we're gonna shimmy over here clockwise and hit the north amp. So if we look at the minimap, it's directly north, and this is called Sinkhole. And it gets hit from two directions. It gets hit from the north and the east, at least with my combinations. And that's what we're going to take a look at today. And so what we'll do is we'll come over here on the north. Now, there is a spawn that happens right up here. And so what I've done is I've added 3 walls here. And what that will do is it kind of makes them direct down here. And as I mentioned with the northwest amp, it kind of blends in to this north amp. And this is where it blends. Now, if you wanted to, you could probably have some traps on here, or some launchers, or, speakers, something to divert them, because occasionally a husk or two may want to beat on this, especially if you're like me and AFK right behind here. But for the most part, all the husks are going to drop down right here. So what we'll do is we'll cover this pathway first, just because it's the one that kind of blends into the amp that we're already taking a look at. Now, like everything, it's very dart heavy. This build, it was meant to be dart only, and then I modified it to include all the other traps. And so it continues that whole process. So we have the darts here, and it just kind of lined up where they're going to be walking. And then it goes down this way. Like so. And if you look, I'm using drop traps just to kind of hold everything back here. And then right at this point, no real things except for the darts. Again, where you can't build in certain spots, so that's why those are blank. But you just make do with what you can build on. And then we have a little bit of a separation here with some dynamos thrown in just because we can. A freeze trap right underneath the gas trap. Again, just if anything small gets through, it just will, do some damage. And then really, it's just all darts. I didn't have to do much here because not a lot will actually get down to this point from that upper part. Not a lot actually spawns in there. It just, if you don't cover your bases, those few husks can cause major problems. So that's all I've needed. It's basically just, that dart tunneling system with, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different traps added. And that's really all that side takes to deal with it. As I said, you could put some traps here just to reinforce this wall. I just haven't needed to in the 100+ runs that I've done on this. The other piece, and I'll hop over this tunneling system because we'll cover this top part here first. And again, it's really dart heavy because that's what I was going for. And you'll notice I have it set up to add more traps. I just haven't ever had to come back here. So again, these are all extra tiles you can probably do away with. I just like to keep what I have set up. And so they will tend to come around here sometimes. So what we've done is we've just added some darts over on this side. Again, because I haven't had to add anything else, it's still just the darts where I can utilize those strategies. Up here is very dart heavy. If anything comes over here, I did add a dynamo. But otherwise, this whole area is set up with basically just darts. Now, some husks will come here, and because we're only hitting them with darts, they'll start breaking on this wall. And so what we've done here, I'll just go around to the other side, is we have it kind of backed up. And then if they break through this wall, they want to come to this corner right here. And so what we have is we have that zapper, and then I have a healing spike on the back. And if you notice, some of my videos, I'll have healing spikes. It's more just to reinforce those areas. I think up on the northwest amp, I noticed when I was watching my video back, there was a lot of those in the back of amps. It was just to kind of help out with like propane and things like that, so things aren't going to just break right away if something goes off. And that is really all just how this setup is. They do get in and break here, but it's random husks, mostly the assassins, just again because I'm standing right up there, so they're trying to come as close to me as possible. And that's why we have that. The majority of husks, I would say a good 90% of them, maybe even more, are just going to walk straight through and drop down. their whole programming, you don't need a lot of block off, you don't need a lot of stuff covering this area. Their natural tendency is to just want to hop down here and join the rest of the group in this normal tunnel. And the odd few that don't, like I said, I have this floating dart here too to really just hit the fact of trying to stop them from breaking through this spot. But this corner is the only piece, and that's why I have that healing thing there. But yeah, with those in play, nothing gets past that part. And so they'll drop down into the main tunnel. So now let's look at that main tunnel and see what we have down here. So the first thing you'll notice is I do have this part blocked off. This is for flingers and stuff because things that spawn here will try to come up this way occasionally and find other ways to go around. And so we just have that area blocked off. Even though there's traps up there, I just don't want anything walking that way. And now we have this main path that I use, and then we have this like little river waterway. Now I have this blocked off. I know a few people like to have it open. I know my friend Mitch, he has this spot open, so you definitely can keep it open and still manage to, you know, get success in all this. I just like closing it off. And you'll notice it's kind of in line with where that wall is. We're one tile out here when we have this set up. I have the anti-air, and then I used gas in this just because I was trying to utilize all the different traps and really just kind of test this, because again, I'm trying to say that the traps can be flexible. It's not about looking at my traps or my perks, it's about the build, and this build is, you know, built to be almost at limit. I have one tile left, and it's just really solid. The only thing that I would say is that when it comes to the cross spawns, which we'll get to next, when it comes from the east side of this amp, is that those cross spawns are the most challenging part to Canny and the only thing that should give you problems. And there is methods to avoid cross spawns in Canny by certain amp placements. I just didn't have that amp placement, so we do have cross spawns in this, and so we'll cover that. But on this side, you don't have to worry about that. So there's, you know, a lot that can be done here. And then inside this, I just really reinforce this. Is all of this necessary? Probably not. You could probably save yourself some structures and get rid of a few of these traps. But I just have them here. It's what I used in my dart build to really reinforce things, because when it was dart only, I didn't have the cushion of like gas traps and things like that. So they would occasionally break through. But when everything is set up this way with all the other traps, this way just gets ignored completely. And if they happen to get to this pot, they kind of take a look at this path as well as this path, and they opt to break this way and try to go through here, which is right where everything else merges. So we can take a look at that in a little bit. And then over on this side, just to make sure they really don't come up this way, and this is continuing from that downwards path here, I just have a floor edit to make it so that, you know, they're not really walking up here with the cone, and then I have the 3 darts. But nothing actually walks up this spot and starts banging on here with this reinforcement. Like I said, if anything, and this is the only time I've ever seen it happen, was when it was dart only, they try to break through this way and, like I said, join the crowd. So we'll take a look now at the main path. So you have some darts here. Again, I just kept these from the dart only build. These will break eventually, the bottom one especially, which is why we have this floor up here holding this dart in place, because I want to keep this one here as much as possible to start shooting when they get up to this point. And then we also have a dart in behind this sound wall, and this is really just for, you know, your propane and things like that as they're walking up. You do have husks that spawn up here too, and so we just, as they're all filtering through, this is when we're starting to hit them with as much darts as possible. You can add stuff here. I just found that it broke really quickly, so I just never really wanted to do that, and in all honesty, you don't really need it. So what we have here, I put the drop traps just because I like how the tires bounce, and then they can kind of go down, and you get some extra damage going down here. And then a freeze with a gas trap is how I have this set up. Darts on either side. Again, broadsides right in this area. This is the area that broadsides should be used. I was saying, you know, flexible, switch things around, but this is an example of I use darts. It was a dart-only build. But in narrow corridors where it's one tile apart, this is a prime spot where you can use broadsides to their full potential. Can you get away with putting broadsides in other areas and, you know, having success with this build? More than likely, but it's just when you're trying to optimize the trap, you want to look for areas like this because broadsides really work well when the cannonballs are bouncing off the walls, like in close corridors. And then we get up here, and again, I did another drop. I found this staggering, you know, so a high trap, a low trap, a high trap. It's really effective. And then I do another gas with the freeze trap, because this gas freeze trap combo is so deadly with lower level husks, and the darts are really taking care of the higher level husks in this build specifically. I really like zappers over gas traps just because they hit hard. They only hit one husk, but usually that's what I'm looking for. I use drops and I use darts to clear out major crowds. But in this build, the way it was just set up and the way I want it to, you know, make it work, the gas just seemed like a good option. And when you're comboing it with the freeze trap because they're just being locked in place, they just do so much damage. But like I said, we're having darts hit them from all angles too. And this is right where it merges. So this is where they're dropping down from that top spot up here. And so when they're dropping down, they're joining in that pathing. And again, we just have them dropping down to like basically a kill box that they have to navigate around to get to this point. And this is usually as far as most husks get when I'm running my run. They're not getting past here. When I did dart only, this area was being utilized. But with the gas and freeze traps and drop traps being added here, nothing on mine is getting down to this point, aside from maybe a random smasher and a mini boss. But once they get here, and if something broke through here, they have a lot more to do to get to the actual amp. And this is where, you know, as I said, because there's no cross spawns here, because it's all whatever, there's a lot that you can be cut back if you needed space for structures or anything like that, if you have good stats. If you don't have good stats, this probably might be utilized and might be really helpful to keep. But I just kept the darts, I added some floor spikes, but in all honesty, I didn't have to do anything else because no husk gets down here. And then they have to walk around. Again, I use these like little cube things to divert them around. So instead of them landing here and just walking straight across, they have to navigate around now, and they're getting hit with some extra darts. And then I bring them back around and over and up. And then if they manage to get up to this point, they hit up here. And like I said, no floor traps or anything, all just dynamos and darts, and then a bunch of gas traps. In all honesty, the only thing that hits traps up over here is from the east spawn. Nothing from the north ever comes up this, like, they don't get down here. And even if a smasher, like, drops down here, they don't get to the ramp. The darts just clear them out. So this is all just extra flair. And again, if it's, you know, one tile high, zappers, gas, interchangeable. Drop traps, steel electric fields, interchangeable, but drop traps are very effective when they're orientated right. And we'll just go back over here because as I'm saying that, I want to just show and illustrate that point. If I can actually jump and land properly. So when I'm doing the drop traps, I'm looking the opposite direction that I want them to push, because drop traps, freeze traps, they have a directional component where they knock husks back. And so on this one, you would think I'm pushing them down the hill, but instead I'm pushing them into the gas trap. And then right here, I'm pushing them back down into the gas trap. So when I placed this one, I actually placed it this way. When I placed this one, I placed it this way. So I looked towards the amp. And I'm just trying to really get them into this little box. The orientation on this one, you could push them down the hill. Like I said, I was trying to get them concentrated so that they're kind of trapped in this little box. But in these areas, like I said, steel electric fields, you know, you probably can get away with doing them on here. The only area I would say that would be a little bit more cautious, and I would probably recommend drop traps over electric fields, would be in the cross spawn areas. And we're going to take a look at that now. So for Sinkhole here, for the east side spawn, if you have Tunnel Lamp, which is right over here, and this is the one we're going to cover next, Tunnel Lamp gives you cross spawns. If you want to avoid cross spawns, don't put this amp down. Select Flex. People say it's harder, but that's because most people also have this amp, and then you have double cross spawns. Flex can be really easy to navigate if you don't have this amp. So if you want to avoid cross spawns, you want to give yourself the easiest canny and you haven't put placements down, don't place Tunnel Lamp. If you place Tunnel Lamp, you're going to get a cross spawn over here. And this is what we're going to cover now because I have it. So what happens is Tunnel will have spawns that spawn all the way up over here. And so it limits what you can build over on this side because you have spawns that are, like, I mean, we're really close to this amp. I have a lot here protecting it, but that's really close. Normally you have like a 14 tile grace. This is like 7 tiles away. You know, it's really close. You have half the distance to trap in. And that's why this amp, the cross spawn amps, will be the only ones that are going to give you problems. So when I say traps are flexible, they're flexible to a limit. After that, or at this point when you have cross spawns and you're basically getting half a tile, like half a tunnel system, because you can't build because spawn will just, a spawn for a different amp will break half of it, you're kind of getting more restrictive. So, you know, use caution on picking your own traps, but at the same time, you can see how I'm doing it and, you know, replicate in a certain way. Now, you'll notice I'm trap heavy, and I have it where they're pushing very much away from this area. So we have a lot of drop traps, and you'll notice I'm just trying to push them. And if you look at the muffler, that's the direction that I'm pushing them. And so I'm really trying to get them out of that area, and I'm trying to shove them into this corner because we also have this tunnel lamp to worry about. So we have this all set up in this way, and we're going to cover this spawn a lot, so you'll see the different layers. The other piece to this is that when they spawn in, you don't want them walking on the roofs. So this is why we have this whole sort of system set up, and there's lots of different ways to do it so you get this kind of result. I just have it set up this way. I have the different levels because I do like to have, you know, a bit of variety. Now you'll notice the drop traps are 3 high on this. So you can't use electric fields on a 3 high. You can only use drops. When it drops down to this 2 high, this is where you can start throwing in electric fields if you wanted to. But when they're 3 high like that, you kind of have to stick to drops. But you can do this and utilize electric fields. You just have to adjust some of this to be a little lower. But the things you got to consider is there is a spawn here for tunnel, and there is spawns up here to hit sinkhole, and so you just want to make sure they're not going to walk on the roof anywhere, especially like over on this side too, because they'll walk over here and they'll drop down over here and try to walk on roofs, and so we just want to avoid that. You also will have husks that will occasionally come up over here, which is why we have this blocked off, so they don't kind of walk around and over and have this free roam area. And so I have little kill boxes here, and then if they happen to break through that, there's a more kill box here. Now the only reason why I have this double setup is again because everything used to be just darts, and I swapped out and made the traps a little better so that nothing actually does hit here. And now I worked with that dart only build a lot to see what breaks and what doesn't break. And so this wall right here doesn't break with bull spawns, so I was able to put that here. Same as over here, this will break eventually, but it lasts a long time. So we have that there, and I put this here because things like to come here and break it, so I have this here to try to stop that. And at the same time, it also deals with this area here where husks will like to drop down. So they're up here, and they'll try to drop down, and so I don't have the roof set up where they can walk on the roof and go all the way across. It's so staggered and stuff that no matter where they walk, they have to fall down and walk through the tunnel. And that's how I have it set up. So these cross spawns are the most challenging piece, and it's about getting the right tunneling through on this side. So this is how I have this side set up. So we have the darts here. Again, this one will occasionally break. And then I have a sound wall because I really want them to walk over here. So the sound wall, this is heals builds attached sound wall, and this is an increased build health dynamo. And like I said, these ones will have a little less flexibility than all the other amp directions. I would highly suggest trying to keep it as close to possible. I don't have a ramp here. I know people like to put the ramps like that, and that is definitely a way to add an extra layer here of protection. I haven't done that. I found sometimes the ramps will make them aggro towards that spot. So what I have is I have this. I have floor edits. And I'm basically getting them to walk up and then walk over this way. And so you'll see the drops. You see the electric field here. Again, electric field, drop traps when they're too high. They're interchangeable, really. I really like the drops on this, though, simply for that knockback aspect. Especially now that crowd control is gone. So when they get here, you'll notice darts. It's again very dart heavy. So when they navigate this way, they're just getting hit from all over. They have to go around and up. Now, it is very apt for them to try to break through that area. So you'll notice right here, there's a ramp. So what I've done is I have a spike on top with heals builds. Underneath, you can even put like a ceiling trap, so when they're trying to break up, they're getting hit. But as soon as they break through this floor, this is what they're breaking into. It's like a little kill box. And it just slows down the procession of them breaking through. And then what happens when they break through that, if they were to break through that, it goes into another kill box. So they get up into here. They have to break this floor, and it's again another area where they're getting hit by all these traps. And then in behind, oops, there's darts that would be hitting them, because this is a ramp, so there's still darts from in behind hitting them too. And it's just about concentrating as much damage as possible in those little square areas that they're breaking up into to try to thwart. And you'll notice I have the heals spikes on the back to really just reinforce the walls, so anything that dies, it gives the build a little chance to regain itself as more husks are coming back through to try to break through this. But that's more of an emergency thing. It doesn't happen a lot in my runs now, just with my stats, but it is something that people might experience in these cross spawns. And as I said, you could do that ramp too with some of the extra builds that I have all over the place to give it a little extra reinforcement. It just, then you're stopping that trap from working with the ramp there. So I prefer not to have a ramp, and I prefer to take them along this path. And now, if they manage to get around that path and walk up here, which very little husks do, see, I don't even have a ceiling trap here. This is what they walk up into. The only thing that's usually up in here is a mini boss potentially. He likes to walk around back here and break some of these big walls that have no real relevance at this stage. A lot of these were all set up with the dart only build in play. And this is how this is all kind of set up here. I just cover the amp up on this. You'll notice I do have a few anti-airs in just random spots. Sometimes they like to break this wall, and so I just have a few anti-airs up here if these run out or something and happen to get back to throw. Anything by spawn, anything like this, cross spawns are the only place I have spawn trapping. You want durability. You want it as much durability as possible if you don't have durability. Mine aren't all durability. I have a reload and damage to them, but I have the stats to be able to allow that. I would go for all durability if you're running a little low, especially when it comes to Canny Valley cross spawns. But once you get into the actual tunneling, because of how effective drops are, it's really just the big stuff. So there is a little bit more flexibility in the traps that you're using in these tunnels, but you know, it's really, I would say, either a crit style build or reload or a combination of the two going through here with some, especially if you're doing reload, add some durability into it with damage, but you know, have a few crit style things in the process too. I'm using all double reload. You don't want to use my stats or my perks, but there's a lot of flexibility to the perks in the back end of the traps. It just, that front area, that cross spawn section, really vital to have durability because you're getting hit from 2 different directions in this spot. And then the only other thing that would tie into this sinkhole amp would be over here. There is a tunnel right up here, so you'll notice that we have it kind of part of this tunnel amp, we have it all blocked off already, but I just have a floor and a cone and then a kill box, and then we'll have to go back and around to see what the other side is set up as. And we go back in here, and so that's where that was coming up from that ramp. I have it all coned out. And then I have anywhere that they're going to walk blocked off, so they'll sometimes come up there and then they want to walk this way for some reason and drop right back down in the tunnel. I just have that blocked off. I don't want them looking at this path at all. There's a ramp right here that we have like a little kill box set up for. And then I have just this section blocked off too because there's another ramp right here. This one's a little less likely to be attacked, but it is a possibility, so we just have that blocked off. We have a wall here. If they happen to break through all that, there is another kill box. This is all based off the dart only concept, so it's just very heavily reinforced with darts because block off alone isn't usually enough. If they see an open path that they can break through and avoid a trap tunnel, they'll usually do that. So that's what these darts are doing, is they're really just saying, no, it's trapped out here, you don't want to come this way. And that is essentially how we have Sinkhole set up to be as the most durable that it possibly can be, especially when it comes to the cross spawns. You have very limited room to do anything with, and this is how we have it set up. It's really all about these floor edits and just reinforcing that main path they want to walk up and stopping it, because there's not enough tiles to damage things when they walk up that ramp. That's why we're getting this extra tiling here by making them walk around this way and getting up to the amp on this side. And anywhere you see like blank walls, you can add some reinforcements to really help maneuver them to go the way you want. This is what's been working for me at this stage, and so I haven't needed to add anything or reinforce anything more than I already have here. But yes, that is Sinkhole. And that's the video today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope some of this information can be helpful to help make your game a little better and a little bit more enjoyable. And yeah, thank you again. Have yourself a great day. Stay safe out there. Later.